it's not that this is an invitation to turn off the search or call off the search. It's very different. It's not that a realization that there is a greater power behind what we call in human language, in this language, as ignorance, is essentially that spiritual practice and so forth, the desire for liberation is irrelevant. No, no, no. This will be a mistake. This will be a jumping into a conclusion. But if you contemplate on that, it's simply another perspective on the ego structure. You have to contemplate on that. According to Kashmir Shaivism, this is the most difficult part that a lot of other parts of Indian philosophy have a hard time to deal with. Because the Jiva, which is a term for soul, individualized soul, is Shiva, that equation is resolved. What makes Jiva experience separation is Shiva in disguise. This is a refrigerator sticking note. Unnecessary predicament is removed, you see? Unnecessary predicament is removed, and there's a greater energy, greater energy. There is an expanse, and some of you already experiencing that, even as this was spoken about, as this was spoken of. If you really tap into that, the principle, the aspect, the face of Shiva as Tat Purusha, it's bound to create certain extremely subtle adjustments. It's like the knot of my own personality is loosened up. If before it was knotted to a degree of being completely dead, nothing can be done to it. This understanding loosens it up. So then the revealing aspect does the job, or undo it fully. So these are not just concepts or precepts, you see, these are not just concepts or precepts, just to take them into our library and put it on a shelf along the zillions of books. This is what we have spoken from the day one. Well, day one, we're only day 3, right? Day 1, you know. Is that it's not about what we're going to cover, but what we're going to uncover. Knowledge is bondage unless it liberates us. Knowledge is bondage. It's the sutra in Shiva Sutras. Gyanam Bandha. It's as simple as that, very short. Gyanam Bandha. Knowledge is bondage. Any knowledge, with no exception. Even the knowledge about self-realization, because it is certainly more useful as that frequency, as that kalpa, as traditionally spoken of, as that frequency of mental vibration. It is certainly of much greater use than the so-called worldly kalpa that keeps us gliding on the surface of existence. But it is still a bondage. And it is this dynamics between the concealing and revealing that everything takes place. Why? Because that's the dynamics between subject and object. Because this is where Shiva has the chance to experience itself as an object of his own experience. With no exception, no perception or no experience is exception. The most mundane grows through the sensory apertures, or the most refined beatific vision beheld in the altered state of consciousness. It is still a relationship between subject and object. It is still a play between the concealing and revealing aspect of Shiva. No, it's not calling off the search. No, it's not. It's not removing the ardor. On the contrary, it's giving more space, creating more space and removing unnecessary predicament that inhibits this process. Because we are like tied in and asked to liberate ourselves. First, we need to loosen up a little bit. This knowledge is loosening up from the grip of personality. It is not your personality to begin with, has never been yours. It's not who you think you are. It is the self, it is yourself in disguise. When we loosen up, only then the real spiritual work begins. The real spiritual unfoldment cannot even begin until we are contracted by that, obviously self-imposed limitation, because as you can see, this is already a paradox staring at us in the face. For even that what is gripping us here is not our own making. And don't settle for understanding here. Don't settle for understanding. Let it vibrate, you know? Let it be alive and not necessarily immediately settle, because that's what will create progressively subtler understanding of what it really means and what it really entails. In other words, we can work on ourselves as from this way. We can work from and with our limitations, you know, we can work. Here in Tantra is a totally everything turned upside down. We work from the level of Shiva down. We work from the level of that which is our consciousness. This is consciousness-based education. Otherwise, we spend all our life working on our ego. Believe me, it's a tough job. And why is it tough? Because what you've done during the day, right? It's like digging a sand pit in the area of sand dunes where they move. You dug, and then you lay down to have your lunch or went to sleep. You came back, and there is a hill. This is what it means to work on your ego. This is a progressive understanding. It's like right away it doesn't exist to begin with. It doesn't even exist. I can't even work on that which doesn't exist. When that is truly grasped, a true humility comes. Humility rises precisely from that. it is, I dare say, simultaneous realization of one's unlimited greatness and utmost humility. Because we're still coalesced and we're still oscillating in the state of duality, in the state of dual consciousness. So it has to be this, you know? It still has to be this. The membrane is still working. It still has to be this. You know, the infinity is realized here, and the humility is realized that what I consider myself with all its limitations is actually my greater self simply concealed from itself. Just don't settle for anything.